Right then, old Xi's off on his travels again. This time he's popped over to Kazakhstan for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, the SCO. Blimey, wherever this sort of thing happens, the CCP's publicity machine goes into overdrive, doesn't it? They carry on as if Xi's diplomacy is the bee's knees. Like this community of shared destiny, Tosh follows him almost like a lost puppy. Oh, the SCO is such a big deal to this lot. Wherever dear leader Xi shows his face, it's suddenly the most important event in world politics. But hang on. The U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is not having any of it. In his book, the beautiful dream she's cooked up in his head is about as likely as me winning the lottery. Let me put it plainly. Blinken's essentially saying, CCP, do wake up and smell the coffee. You're not nearly as important as you think you are. Let's take a look at this SCO. Back to 2001, when it all kicked off, there were just 9 countries, China and Russia running the show, India and Pakistan tagging along, plus Iran and 4 little Stan brothers, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. At first, these chaps just wanted to get their economic cooperation game on. But then someone got a bit tetchy. They were all like, nah, just spice things up and make the SCO about security and fighting terrorism. But before you know it, meetings were popping up left, right, and center. Minister chinwags, Prime Minister powwows, money talks, military huddles. This whole operation kept ballooning out of control. Have a look at the countries that joined later. Armenia, Azerbaijan, Cambodia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, Myanmar, Kuwait, UAE, Maldives, Bahrain. We're talking a proper anti-American crew here, aren't we? So what's in it for these countries signing up? Security? Yeah, right. Azer and Armenia are at each other's throats, while that just sits there like a lemon, utterly useless. India and Pakistan have the cheek to claim they're founding members, but who's actually seen themselves jacked through the SCO? And Middle East kerfuffles like Kuwait and Saudi Arabia? That's got bugger all to say about that. What has that actually done? Besides giving certain bigwigs a platform to blow their own trumpets, seems like it's all about stuffing their faces, clinking glasses, grinning for the cameras, and churning out a bit of waffle. But let's be honest, has the SEO actually made a blind bit of difference? These SEO countries are more than happy to pocket China's cash, but swallowing China's whole ideology? Not a chance. North Korea completely ditching China's satellite for a Russian one? Talk about a slap in the face for China. Now, those Stan countries in Central Asia have been lapping up Chinese investment like there's no tomorrow, especially for their roads, railways, and oil rigs, but they're also cozying up to Russia's Eurasian Economic Union and flirting with the West. Cambodia is rolling out the red carpet for Chinese investors, but then turns around and conducts joint military exercises with the United States. Pakistan's the same. They're all over China's economic corridor project, but still find time for military drills with American forces. Xi Jinping's on struggle street when it comes to his international rep these days. Dude can't catch a break. Back in the day, Western countries were lining up to kiss his ass. Presidents and prime ministers were beating down Beijing's door. Xi was living the high life, getting invites to roll with the in-crowd at the G7. The CCP's foreign minister has Xi's calendar all mapped out like a boss. Q1, roll out the red carpet for the US president. Q2, tea and crumpets with the British PM. Q3, wine and dine French president. Then would do his own world tour, strutting his stuff on the global stage. And man, when the US president travels, it's a whole different ballgame. 2 Air Force Ones, fighter jets for bodyguards, and that beast of a Cadillac screaming America wherever it goes. They show up, and bam, the whole situation flips. Wherever they land, it's like money, big business, and intel are falling out of the sky. Heck, even the average Joe in Vietnam sees their wallet getting fatter just from one presidential visit. Now, big dogs like the UK, US, and France couldn't care less about the CCP. These days, she's reduced to jetting off to places like Kazakhstan just to feel important. The international community's long past playing nice with the CCP. Blinken's not pulling any punches. Who wants to hang out with you guys anyway? His last trip to France? Talk about a comedy of errors. The red carpet wasn't even lined up with the plane stairs. Amateur hour, folks. Word on the street is she tore the protocol department a new one afterward. Poor Hua Chunying. The director of the Foreign Ministry Information Department nearly lost her marbles from all the yelling. Here's the big shot leader of so-called superpower, and they can't even roll out a carpet straight. Then he's off freezing in the French countryside, holding his own umbrella like some schmuck. I mean, come on. These days, when the Western big shots show up in Beijing, It's like they're coming for a face-off, all warnings and tough talk, and don't even get me started on the Middle East. China sent a whole bunch of fancy special envoys. And what did they receive? Absolutely zip. All of China's clever little schemes to push the US around, Uncle Sam saw right through them and shut that nonsense down before China could even blink. No one's giving him the time of day internationally, and he's got a mountain of problems piling up at home. With enemies abroad and chaos at home, even Superman would be sweating bullets. The home crowd's not buying, and they're drowning in stuff no one wants, so they're itching to offload it all overseas. That's what this expansion jazz is all about. But wouldn't you know it, they've gone and picked a fight with the West. So much for that grand plan of economic world domination. They've hit a brick wall, and it's going to leave one heck of a bruise. The CCP had this wild dream of keeping the US in check with their fancy unrestricted warfare. But guess what? No matter how unrestricted they got, they still came up short. Then they tried to sneak in through the back door with TikTok and whatnot, thinking they hit the jackpot. But when it came to actually swaying folks in France and Europe, it was a big fat nothing burger. Turns out, people are more into freedom of thought than this shared future mumbo-jumbo. Anything starting with communists just makes people want to hurl. So here's the scoop. China got it all wrong by looking outside to fix their money troubles. What they really need is a major shakeup from the inside. We're talking checks and balances, real democracy, and spreading the power around. That's the secret sauce to get these creative juices flowing and kick those economic headaches to the curb. But here's the kicker. The party is holding on to power like it's their last meal. Instead of cleaning house, they're trying to take over the neighborhood. But guess what? Being the schoolyard bully doesn't win you any friends. Before they know it, they'll have the whole world giving them the cold shoulder. Putin has shown up at the SCO summit, rubbing shoulders with all sorts of movers and shakers. His chat with Mongolia's president was supposedly constructive, but it was over in the blink of an eye. It seems Mongolia's keen to play peacemaker between Russia and Ukraine, but Putin's not having any of it. But he's polite enough on the surface. Then there's Putin's little chat with Azerbaijan's president Aliyev. Russia thinks they've done Azerbaijan a big favor over Nagorno-Karabakh, and is hoping for a bit of thanks, but Aliyev is not about to sell out his country's interests just to make Russia happy. Putin keeps hoping for a win with Aliyev, but ends up in disappointment every time. The funny thing is Putin's meeting with Turkey's President Erdogan, a get-together Russia actually asked for. Erdogan's waving the peace flag, trying to boost his image by meddling in the Ukraine crisis, but Russia's not buying it. Putin's mouthpiece Peskov bluntly said Erdogan's got no chance of being a middleman. Talk about a diplomatic slap in the face. The meeting with Xi Jinping is even more interesting. Russia's economy is clinging to China. China's thinking, if anyone can sweet-talk Putin into a peace deal, it's gotta be us. And Russia? Well, they'll just have to put up with it. You know Putin's recent trips to North Korea and Vietnam? That was like watching the first cracks appear in the Sino-Russian relationship. The real issue is behind the scenes. Companies from both countries are fighting fiercely for resources. At the slightest disagreement, they run to tattle to their national leaders. If Russia feels they're getting a raw deal compared to China on a project, they're quick to call Putin. Keep this up, and how long before these two countries start having real problems? Now look at the Americans. Over there, business is business, and politicians keep their noses out of it. When the G7 bigwigs get together, they're just talking about the rules of the game. Market competition is for companies to sort out. Even the US president can't interfere. Who gets them? It's down to who's got the goods. Pass the security checks, do a decent job, and you might get a Pentagon contract. That's playing by the rules. Keeps countries from getting into silly squabbles, doesn't it? So all this strategic cooperation talk between China and Russia, it's just for show. Behind the scenes, they're tripping each other up and fighting for the biggest piece of the pie. That's the real deal. Some countries' officials are a bit dodgy if you ask me. All smiles to your face, but who knows what they're up to behind your back. No wonder the Russians and those straight-talking Central Asian folks are a bit miffed. Now this Power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline's meant to run from Russia to China through Mongolia. Putin's banging on about it non-stop, going on about Russian-Chinese friendship and how brilliant this project is, blah blah blah. China seemed to be very interested, saying they're ready to start any time, but on the quiet, they're dragging their feet, not giving a straight answer. Well, you see, this project's a bit of a sticky wicket for energy security, and we need to think it through. We can't put all our eggs in one basket with energy imports, can we? Oh, and let's not forget that it's going through Mongolia. Bit iffy on the safety and reliability front, that. Truth is, China's just trying to keep Russia from getting the upper hand without offending them, so they're playing for time. As for North Korea, that's a different story altogether. In 2017, they conducted a major nuclear test that shocked the entire world. China came out strongly against it, and even backed tougher UN sanctions. Now, I'm not saying North Korea was right to do nuclear tests, but here's the thing. China always claims to be best buddies with North Korea, so how come they're so quick to turn their back when it really matters to North Korea? Isn't that just stabbing your mate in the back? No wonder North Korea's feeling a bit miffed, thinking China's not all that reliable. The thing is, the CCP just can't seem to get along with their neighbors properly. Those nomadic types, they're all about keeping the word, make a promise over a drink, and it's set in stone. But the Chinese, they tend to be evasive and often don't keep their promises. The truth is, countries in this part of Asia have had long-standing conflicts with each other. They can't understand each other's lingo, got completely different ways of doing things, and even when they share the same beliefs, they'll still fight fiercely, showing no mercy and killing if necessary. A Chinese businessman trying to do business in Kazakhstan? Without the CCP having his back, locals would eat him alive. Russia's even wilder. They'll refuse to pay debts without a second thought, using their strength to intimidate. Plus, these resource-rich countries don't necessarily need to do business with China. If China can't manage relationships with neighboring Central Asian countries, how can they handle more distant ones? In African countries run by Chinese companies, workers are often mistreated. How can African people be happy with that? That's why the Belt and Road Initiative is bound to fail sooner or later. So folks, this Shanghai Cooperation Organization we've been chatting about is nothing but a fancy show. Old Xi thought he could strut his stuff on the world stage with this gig, but what's the result? All these neighboring countries are giving China the cold shoulder. Russia and North Korea are playing a two-faced game, while those Central Asian countries are all out for themselves. And don't get me started on Africa. That Belt and Road Initiative has turned into a right mess. Blinken's spot on. China's just trying to lead the world down a dodgy path. Meanwhile, everyone knows the US is the real deal, the one everyone's counting on to keep things in order globally. The world's looking to America to run the show, not China. Blinken's not mincing his words, is he? He's saying the CCP's gagging to be the world's top dog, but tough luck, other countries aren't having it. The CCP's bending over backwards to create some new world order, but aside from chasing a bit of dosh, who's really going to fall for their community of shared destiny for mankind malarkey? Let's keep it real. The CCP wants the whole blinking world to bow down to Xi, but other countries aren't buying it, so the US is putting down its foot, saying they'll go toe-to-toe with China for the top spot.